Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the cottage and welcome back to another episode of my Celtic Ogham series. Today we are on the fourth tree on the branch of transformation, and that means we're on the aspen or Edith in Irish, and that is the letter E in the Celtic tree alphabet, and this is known as the trembling tree or the whispering tree. And that is because the leaves, if you ever click on YouTube and go to the search bar, go to aspen trees, and you can hear the trees move in the wind, and they make this beautiful sound. And it does sound like whispering or quivering. And it's so wild to listen to. A friend of mine goes to Colorado, and she goes near this grove of aspen trees, and she can just hear them make this quivering sound, and she records them for me, and I just love to hear them. They're like talking to each other, which is really cool, because if you ever search them out online or in a book, they really are quite the unit together, because they share roots. And they're like one family. It's so like they're like gossiping. It's so cool. So aspen and its close relatives, the white, black, and gray poplar. So you can see them in different oracles, like the Spirit of Nature oracle, and the Celtic Tree Oracle. You can see them interchangeably with each of the poplars. So white, gray, or black poplar, they're all related to the aspen. But they are actually members of the willow family. So, I always thought they were members of the birch family, but they're actually members of the willow family. So that's interesting. And they're closely associated in Celtic traditions with the festival of Samhain, and has a history of use in spell work for helping alleviate fear, controlled contacts with beings of the underworld, and peaceful contact with spirits of the dead. So kind of makes you think, when they're doing their whispering, are they talking to the dead? Kind of spooky, right? Now in Ireland, rods of aspen called fee, Fe, were used for measuring of dead bodies for coffins. Yeah, we're getting morbid right off the bat here. So these rods would be for measuring how big you were for what kind of coffin you would need. And it was thought to be the wood also from which Jesus's crucifixion cross was made. Hence another connection with the dead. And in ancient Wales, because of this connection, it was considered a cursed wood, because of that connection with the crucifixion cross. Yeah. So aspen's connection with the dead goes back as far as 3000 BCE, where golden headdresses and crown of aspen leaves were placed upon the dead in burial mounds in Mesopotamia, a practice thought to ease entry into the underworld. The association with death also connects aspens with the autumnal equinox, the old age of the year, a threshold between death and renewed fertility. So let's take a look at these beautiful trees. You can see the beautiful leaf of the aspen and the silver bark on here. Very similar to the birch, but where birch is white, looking like almost like paper, the aspen or the white poplar is more silver. And that's kind of how you can distinguish between the two. And you can see the beautiful leaves here. And this is the Ogham that I made, and it is in silver. If you can't tell, I can kind of turn it where there's 4 notches right there, 4 crosses. And here we can see the face and the 4 crosses there on the actual aspen wood. And there's our face, the 2 eyes, the nose, and the mouth right there. And this is actually the white poplar. And it's spelled E-D-A-D-H, but it's pronounced Edith. So lovely, beautiful, beautiful tree. Probably one of my favorites to just absolutely look at and adore. Now, aspen is associated with fear and fearfulness because of its role as a threshold tree. Now, threshold means change, and it can be a terrifying thing on many levels. As fear develops, it sucks life energy and causes us to resist change, making that transition harder. It's a self-perpetuating cycle that strips us of strength and makes us more vulnerable. Now, fearlessness and courage, on the other hand, naturally makes us more robust and present, and we are more able to deal with whatever comes our way. Of course, courage and recklessness are not the same. The former is an aware willingness to endure and overcome challenges with the trust that we are capable of enduring. Now, aspen is also a powerful goddess tree, with its different species being attributed to the various aspects of the triple goddess. And she embodies the threshold and portal into life, serving as caretaker, and later, she who lays out the dead. And aspen can be seen as accompanying that experience, youth through death and life again. Aspen has great sympathy and understanding of the human condition and an awareness of our frailties and vulnerabilities. It's particularly sacred to the Greek goddess Persephone, who wed Hades and lived there with him for 6 months of the year, causing autumn and winter in the world above. In Greek mythology, it is said that aspen trees stand at the threshold to the underworld, making the boundary between the spirit world and the world of mortality. That's pretty awesome. Now, the aspen's trembling leaves link it with the presence of spirits, particularly wind spirits, but also otherworldly wind spirits and ancestral beings. As such, it was also associated with oracles and augury, using nature, particularly birds, as divinatory tools, for lack of a better term. It was used in making divinatory incense, and listening to its leaves rustling can invoke trance states. Oh, very much so. I will listen to a YouTube video for 10 minutes of listening to those awesome leaves blowing in the wind. It's just amazing. The rustling is sometimes believed to be the tree itself communicating, and in the Gaelic-speaking lands, aspen leaves were sometimes placed upon the tongue to encourage eloquence. The aspen's voice was also attributed to fairies and otherworldly beings who gathered around its shade. For this reason, aspens and other poplars are considered to be gathering places for all sorts of spirits and energies. Important events occurring near them took an added significance, as if portended, blessed, or cursed by spiritual forces. It was thought that the voices of the dead could be heard in aspen's whispering leaves, understood only by seers or shamans. These trees are especially significant, serving as threshold and visionary trees where messages from the other world can be accessed. Aspen grants assistance in the ability to receive these messages, helping us develop the courage to do so. In the alteration of the shaman's or seer's vibrational rate, contact between the worlds is made easier. In this way, Aspen also teaches right use of magical power as connection with the other worlds and multitudes of spirits grants access to greater abilities and knowledge. Working with the aspen increases awareness of this universe and helps the seeker adjust and cope with the increase in perception. Very awesome. The name aspen comes from the Greek aspis, which means shield. And aspen was used by the Greeks as well as the Celts to make shields, and it was almost as popular as the alder for this purpose. Like the alder, aspen also makes good shamanic shields, giving courage when embarking on new terrain, assisting the spirit of the fallen warrior to move on and find a way to the next world should the worst happen. Aspen shields were especially precious and only used for distinguished warriors. It is said that the hero Cuchulainn, his shield was made of aspen, and that he received his final training on the Isle of Skye from a woman called Scatic, which means both shield and shadow. Now, to pass the test and learn the lesson of shadow is to come to terms with the underworld and otherworld, inside and outside ourselves, to gain courage and go beyond our limitations and perceptions, to cross the threshold between what we are and what we could and will be. The Greek hero Hercules was given a crown of aspen after killing the giant Casus to mark his achievement, as was the Irish hero Oscar, who is said to have fallen on the battlefield heroically after killing the High King in the defense of the Fianna, of which he was a member. After slaying the king, Oscar is said to have fallen like the aspen tree, bravely and with awareness, his spirit leaving like leaves on a strong wind. This wind is the north wind that carries the spirits of the dead and their voices to and from the mortal world. Now, the lesson of the aspen. As the wind passes through the aspen leaves, they whisper a message of peace. Listen within yourself and find comfort in the still, small voice of calm, in the music of the spheres, in the resounding Om of existence, in the voice of God, whatever you choose to call the spirit moving through the silence within us. You can interpret this in whichever way is most personal to you. The aspen teaches the lesson of fearlessness and gives us the strength to face fear that comes from the unknown. Aspen helps us to understand the power of love that stands behind and overcomes all things. Once we know this to be true, we are beyond pain, suffering, care, worry, and fear, and we become participants of true joy. That is so profound. I love that. Now we move to practical and magical uses. The magical uses of aspen are all related to thresholds, shielding, building confidence, attuning us to be able to cope with the vast increases in energy coming from the spirit world and the qualities of air. So communication, augury, and messages to and from the spirit and mortal worlds. For this reason, aspen is used in sympathetic magic to heal nervous complaints, illnesses, and conditions that induce shaking and trembling, and the overcoming of anxiety and fears. That makes so much sense because that tree shakes just like we shake when we are fearful or anxious. An old Lincolnshire charm refers to this as well. And it goes, aspen tree, I pray thee shake and shiver instead of me. Isn't that awesome? I just thought that was so cool. Now, sometimes a lock of a person's hair was buried underneath an aspen tree or hung in its branches so that the tree would take the illness from the afflicted. So it would shake instead of you. Isn't that awesome? Now, aspen is also used in various traditional recipes for flying ointments, as its magical properties and, of course, its indwelling spirit are excellent for helping to cross into the spirit realm and to seek spirit vision. In reality, flying ointments of all kinds, even those with toxic hallucinogenic ingredients, are entheogenic potions that assist the seeker with finding spirits in spirit flight, accessing the divine via shamanic experience. Aspen's spirit is an excellent ally, giving protection as well as an extra lift, thanks to its connections to the air element. Aspen is also a great addition to Samhain incense or to scatter about the circle for the same reason. Aspen is traditionally placed under the astrological rulership of Saturn and is used in spells relating to legal worries and protection against theft. Gathered with the tree's permission, always, a small bundle of aspen wood or bark tied with red thread and buried at the threshold is a good charm against thieves and malicious intent. Aspen is also sometimes considered under the rulership of Jupiter due to its connections to the god Zeus, and it's used in money spells because of this. Now, due to its connections with eloquence, aspen is also associated with Mercury and can be used for communication spells as well as to help with writing legal letters or application forms. Maybe like writing an invisible Ogham on the application form. Sounds sneaky, but it works. Okay, both aspen and poplar trees are associated with moon magic due to the connection with Persephone. Now, similarly, in the Celtic tradition, aspen and poplars are associated with the fairy queen who grants the seeker a tongue that cannot lie, an ancient reference to the gifts of prophecy and magical eloquence. Now, practically, poplar is not used for many things as it is a quite weak wood, but it is very buoyant, so is sometimes used to make paddles and oars. Aspen is excellent for carving, and as it does not burn well, white or gray poplar, a cross between poplar and aspen, was sometimes used to make floorboards in houses. Now, in spell work and ritual, you can keep a wand or twig of aspen with you when journeying to aid in communication in other realms. And for a protection spell, inscribe the Ogham Eadha right here, or on a picture of an aspen tree to burn in your cauldron. You could crumble and then burn a dried leaf to break a hex or to ward off negative energy. Wear a pendant made of aspen wood or the Ogham as an amulet to help confront your fears or when in the company of someone you believe has deceived you. Remember, they can't lie. I love that. For support through difficult times, inscribe the Ogham on a white candle and burn it during meditation. Also do this when you just need a boost in a particular aspect of your life. Use a green candle for healing circles. Unless the healing is for cancer, then use a blue candle. Gaze at a picture of an aspen to instill a feeling of peace and harmony. So, next we have your linked aspects. These are linked concepts. These are going to be your keywords for knowing when to use the Ogham sigil or aspen for magic. So here we go, your linked concepts. Astral traveling, communication, courage, determination, divination, warding off hexes, acquiring knowledge, prosperity, removing negativity, the other world, protection, renewal, stress and anxiety, spirit work, and ancestor work. All of those you can use the Ogham or the actual tree. Okay, here are your correspondences, the elements, air and water. Your zodiac, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Libra. Your deities, Apollo, Danu, Frigg, Gaia, Hades, Hecate, Hercules, the Morrigan, Odin, Persephone, Tyr, and Zeus. Your colors, silver and red. Your totems, the white mare, the beaver, the butterfly, the mourning dove, the raven, and the swan. Your calendar is the autumnal equinox. And your related species are the Solaceae, the willow, white poplar, the birch, the cottonwood, and the balsam poplar. All right. And for your healing, herbally and practically, aspen has much fewer uses than trees featured earlier in the Ogham. And we know that as we get to these later trees, it's more about the metaphysical, spiritual purposes than the medicinal. We knew that going in, right? So medicinally, it has been used for fever and nervous conditions, and tea made from its buds is said to be good for cuts as well as sore throats. The buds from black poplar can be used to make a healing salve that is good for bruises, aches, and pains. Balm of Gilead, made from the balsam poplar, a relative of the aspen, is used as an expectorant and relieves congestion. Both poplars and aspen contain psilocin, a compound found in pain relief medicines, good for mild external pains, aches, and minor injuries. Now, as a vibrational essence, this is where aspen shines. Aspen is used to heal and alleviate fears of the unknown and unseen, such as fear of the dark. It helps alleviate shaking and trembling and relaxes the light body, helping an agitated vibrational rate, the resulting of communicating with spirits or simply being close to them. It makes the spirit communication experience easier, replacing fear with trust of self as well as others. Using aspen, peace and calm are achieved, and the vibrational rates become more in tune or resonant, so that communication and interaction become easier. Aspen also restores flow and motion to those who are literally paralyzed by shock or fear or stuck in a fearful state. Less well known is aspen's value in peaceful banishings and space clearings, especially relating to rites of the dying and the dead, when it can be used to anoint, spray as part of a dilution, or burned as fragrant oil. Using aspen can help the spirits transition and attract beneficent guides and ushers to lead the way to any lost or fearful spirits. As such, it is valuable for shamanic soul leading work and others who assist such transitions. Aspen can, of course, also be burnt or made into a tea or tincture for this psychopomp purpose, as well as in its vibrational form. However, its essence spirit must be actively asked for assistance, and when using the tree's physical matter, permission should always be sought, and the material magically charged with specific intent. And I'm going to tell you, with all of these trees, we should all be keeping that in mind. Always ask permission, and always with respect. Always. Always. Okay. In a reading, if we get our Eadha Aspen up right, it means you are overcoming fear and obstacles. You're listening to your inner guidance, or you're transitioning from one realm or state to the next. If we should draw it reversed, we are being paralyzed by our doubts and our fears. We're stagnant. We're not moving forward. We're stuck. We're being held there by our fears. Okay? So that is aspen or white poplar, gray poplar, black poplar, balsam poplar, all the poplar. So I hope you've enjoyed my presentation today. Please give this video a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss my upcoming Celtic Tree Ogham series. We have one more in this branch, and then we'll be heading to the Forfeda, which are the extra trees added for the Greek and Latin languages. They aren't the original, but they are added trees. So we'll include those as well. And then after that, we'll be going into some divination techniques, some different ways that you can use this in your divination processes other than just drawing them. We'll put them in different spreads, and I'll show you kind of some ways that you can use them. So I'm excited for that. Please visit my website at theveiledcottagewitch.com, where you can book a reading, book a service, book a class or a workshop. You can also shop my online store, where I have tons of holistic healing items or ritual and spell aids. But just remember at checkout to plug in that code word, all caps veiled, to get your free shipping. That's a huge discount just for watching these videos. So don't forget to do that. If you'd like to financially support this channel, you can do so. Tips are always welcome. All the details are down below, or you could scan this QR code right here, but not necessary, just much appreciated. Other than that, live your best life and live for yourself. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.